right, welcome to the School Turnaround Podcast. I'm so excited for today's episode. The School Turnaround Podcast was started a few months ago in early 2024 by myself, Dr. Chance Lewis. The whole goal was to have a platform where educators and other stakeholders can come who were seeking solutions on how to successfully turn around schools that may have been struggling academically, struggling to have their students reach their ultimate potential in the academic classroom. So for today, I'm just so excited because we have another great guest joining the show today, none other than Dr. Crystal Johnson. So we will turn it over to her in a minute, but I'm very proud of her, and I won't say all the ways I know her and all the ways we helped her get to this particular point. I won't do that to her, but we're so excited to have Dr. Johnson here with us today. So, Dr. Johnson, since you're one of the rising stars in urban education, and your job now focuses on teacher and leadership development in one of the nation's largest school districts, I would love for you to just introduce yourself to the listening audience and tell them a little bit about you and your journey as well.
Absolutely, Dr. Lewis. Thank you so much for having me. I am very honored and excited to be here.
Great.
I am Dr. Crystal Johnson, and I began my career in education as a elementary school teacher. Then I had the opportunity to be able to work with new teachers. So I spent a lot of time working across several districts across North Carolina in induction support and new teacher support. And that was through different school districts on the university level. And then I was provided with the distinct honor to be able to work in Wake County schools as a senior administrator of student and educator engagement, where in this role I plan, deliver, and implement professional development across the district and culturally responsive practices. I serve as a consultant to all of the district departments within the county. And probably the largest and most important role is to ensure, monitor, and assess the equity goals in our strategic plan are flowing as we have planned them, and making sure that students and staff, not just in Wake County, but being able to even share our work abroad pertaining to equity and cultural responsiveness is continuing to run smoothly and impacting our county and impacting North Carolina. So I'm excited to be in this role and excited to be a part of the largest district in North Carolina to share my expertise that I've learned throughout my career.
Great. And I'm so proud of you. I didn't even know that you were doing all of that. So I'm very proud of you in all the roles that you're playing now in Wake County Public Schools. So our conversation today, since we have a number of stakeholders that watch the show, we wanted to have this as a place where they can come and seek answers. So kind of diving into what you're doing, I think it's going to be really, really important for people to understand, because sometimes people kind of misunderstand roles, particularly like the office that you work in. So I know one of your main focal points, you work in the Office of Equity Affairs in Wake County Schools, and you focus on, culturally responsive leadership and school turnaround efforts. So talk to us a little bit about why that role and that office is important to you and the work that you're doing now.
I think for me, the Office of Equity Affairs and my role as senior administrator and making sure these endeavors that we plan together are implemented is because we want to build culturally responsive leadership in all our staff, students, principals, district personnel. We want them to be able to build that leadership, because I like to use that term, cultural leadership. I like to work backwards, right? So
Right.
when you feel that you can lead something and you have self-efficacy in something, then you feel more comfortable implementing it, right?
True.
But If you feel like you don't have that efficacy, then we become more passive in implementing culturally responsive practices, or any practice for that matter, if you don't have that confidence. So we want to be able to lead the work, but also be able to give the work back, because we have
Mm-hmm.
199 schools, and there's not
Wow, that's a lot of
199 of
schools.
us. That's a lot of schools. We have 160,000 students, over 20,000 staff. So we want to be able to equip you and allow you to go out in your respective spaces and to continue the work. And I think if we build up your leadership skills, so building up the capacity of what it takes to be a leader, building up the capacity to do what leaders do, sometimes have to learn conflict resolution, have to have
Right.
courageous conversations. We want to build that efficacy, because then once you feel like you can lead, then we can add learning those culturally responsive practices and supporting you in how to apply and implement them to your respective spaces. So that's why we want to begin leadership, and we want to continue. We're really big on no one and dones. We don't want to
Right.
just do PD and then we leave you. We want to say we have a minimum amount of time we have to have, and a minimum amount of time that we want to be able to continue to support you. So we feel that if we build up your leadership skills, the confidence level will help not only your staff, but also allow for culturally responsive not to be historically passive as it's been, and be able
Mm-hmm.
to affect all the many factors that make up a school district and a school.
Right. And given that, when we think about that work, it all plays out to the purpose of this podcast, because in this day and age of where we live now in school accountability, we know recently here in North Carolina, the new letter grades for each school was released as well. So we know the work of school turnaround is hard work, right? So in your opinion, when you look at your district and even districts and schools across the state, why do you feel that so many of these schools are still struggling with school turnaround and getting the maximum potential out of the school as well?
Well, Dr. Lewis, I think the first thing is that oftentimes with school turnaround, it seems as though that there is a very rapidness that has to occur when it comes to
True.
turning the school around.
Right.
But the thing is, we didn't get here rapidly for needing the support for school turnaround
Right.
process. So we
Right.
can't, expect this instantaneous results. And I think once you are expecting these numbers and scores and data to improve so quickly, sometimes that affects the culture and the climate of the school, because now oftentimes you're heavily surveilled more than you were
Right.
before. And even those teachers who may even want to engage in culturally responsive practices and things like that, a lot of times they want to put that to the back burner, because a lot of things that I hear working with new teachers in the past and working with teachers now it's more of these terms of, I'm just trying to keep my head above water, or I
Right.
just
Trying
don't
to
have.
survive. Right.
Right. I don't have time, or I can't,
Right.
I can't, or I don't, whatever the case may be. And I think that's the struggle, because, if your staff feels well, they'll perform well. But
Mm-hmm.
I think that, being that a lot of times when when these school turnaround processes happen, some of those who are leading or implementing it may not have all of the contextual background of a school, or a contextual background of how we got here. So sometimes it feels like, for lack of better words, some people are being, dumped in these schools and then trying to figure out all of the different moving parts, but haven't taken the time to figure out, how did we get here? Where can we
Mm-hmm.
start? How can I put this, scaffold this out in a way where my teachers know that it's achievable and can
Right.
happen, and we
Mm-hmm.
can make success, but making it where it's achievable, and you are taking the time to not only look at the numbers, but go past the numbers and look at that qualitative pieces that we need in order to improve our quantitative data. So I think
Right.
the struggle is a lot. It does with just the pressure
Yeah.
and not having the skills to cope with that, and and think of a student or a staff member as a whole person, because we
Right.
are coming in each day trying to meet those ever moving targets when it comes to student achievement.
Right. And that's important. And you bring up a point that I didn't think about, the time pressure, right? So like in your role in providing this professional development to over 200 schools across a district, but then you have a principal who's basically on the clock because they got that letter grade and they said you need to turn it around by next year, right? So,
Right.
so how is your office kind of responding to that pressure? And I call it the pressure of school turnaround, of to trying to see results quick, knowing that results also take time.
Absolutely. I think what our role is that one thing we want to do is first help people realize how vast culturally responsive practices are and how vast equity is, right? When
Hmm.
we go to PDs, if anybody hears anything about a PD, their first mind is, okay, we're going to spend an hour talking about race and then we're going back. When it's just
Right.
like equity covers so many things. So what we do is we show them that, hey, part of our job is to bring your attention to historical academic data. Part of our
Yeah.
job is to show traumas that may be occurring during this process. Is to show the community, all of these, how all these educational stakeholders play a role to provide everybody with a global perspective, right? Of
Hmm.
everything that's coming into play that you may not see when you are listening to that clock tick away. And then
Right.
another thing that we do is we are really, really trying, even right now, is just to not think of our work as this thing, right? As like
Hmm.
something we can pick up and put down. Because when people
Yeah.
are in this school turnaround process, they're thinking, okay, I have to do this with my students, I have to do this with my staff, and you want me to be culturally responsive?
Right. Right.
When in actuality, when done correctly, it's naturally woven in, right? So we're
Hmm.
naturally, speaking to our students' cultures, making sure that they see themselves in the classroom. We're naturally building in their funds of knowledge when we're creating assessments. We're naturally self-reflecting ourselves and checking ourselves and saying what introspections do excuse me, intersections do we have that may be impeding how I'm referring someone to AIG, referring someone in discipline. So just saying that it's all within it and it's not something additional. And
Right.
once you have an understanding of how part of culture responsive, when we look at culture relevant pedagogy, one of the areas is academic achievement. It's been proven that it does
True.
increase academic achievement. So we want to show people that this isn't something extra. If anything, it's only going to enhance what you're already doing in your school turnaround process.
Experience innovation in education against the backdrop of Cancun's beauty. Join us for the International Conference of Urban Education in this vibrant coastal city. Unlock new perspectives while enjoying the breathtaking scenery. Book your spot now.
So we want to show people that this isn't something extra. If anything, it's only going to enhance what you're already doing in your school turnaround process.
Right. And that's key. So let's dive in based on what you just mentioned. Let's dive in now to the classroom teachers, right? So because when you deal with school turnaround, you can look at it on so many levels, but at the end of the day, it's what happens in the classroom, right? So when we talk about the teachers now, and helping them understand how to teach in a culturally responsive way where they can value what students bring to the table. Why do you feel that is important enough for your office to make that a priority, right? But then also work with these schools on implementing it for them, because one thing it's pretty safe to say in most of their training programs that they did not get it, right? And then when they get to the school, we know that they're not equipped with it, right? So it really boils down to on-the-job training, right, to meet the needs of the students that we have. So talk a little bit about why that is important for you in this work that you're doing at the teacher level.
I think it's important because, as you said, historically in educator prep programs, there's historically little to no support when it comes to culturally responsiveness, right?
Right.
And then on top of that, being that a lot of times the student teaching site that you're in does not reflect the school where you end up being employed. So
Right.
then it's like, hold up, wait a minute,
Right.
I need some help, or I'm struggling, or it could possibly, being that the teacher force is predominantly white female, their first job could possibly be the first time that they are in a space with a diverse, rich background, not just diverse in race,
Right.
but culture, language, all of these things. So one reason why I think it's important is because we are big on prevention. We try to not have
Right.
to always intervene. So we want them to be able to know early, simply because research shows, particularly with new teachers, is that they adopt the views of their leadership. So even
Of
if they
course.
are wanting to plan equitable practices, or even just when it gets started, if it's not valued at the school, then it can end up, that urgency can end up dwindling. So we want to make sure they maintain that yearning for wanting to do it. For new teachers, I feel that they are open and ready, but in a lot of schools it can be divisive. So sometimes, you have people who are ready, and then sometimes you have people who are not. Because even though we have 199 schools, there's so many different approaches, feelings, apprehensions to this work. So I think it's
Right.
important that because we're so diverse and we're increasingly diverse across the nation, I just think it's important that teachers are aware and just know that when we invest in our students' funds of knowledge and what they bring, it can drastically change. I always tell people, whoever you're teaching the 30-year-old them, the 40-year-old them,
That's true.
because there are so many things. If my eyes are viewed in a cultural lens, then I can look at discipline differently. I can look at how many referrals I'm doing. I can look at, how the disproportionalities of how many Black and brown students are in special education, those type things. Because as we see a lot of times when we follow data and when we work with our friends and do process and we look at different data and things like that, we'll look at a senior and we can look at their whole portfolio of how there have been discrepancies and how that's affected their academic achievement. And one
Right.
thing that we always use that I feel nobody can fight over is everybody wants academic achievement. So we push that really hard because culturally responsiveness have been proven to improve academic achievement. So that's kind of like our buy-in. Like, you're really not going to say
Right.
no to academic achievement, are you? Like, not,
Right.
at least not
Right.
to my face, right? So
Exactly.
we do that because we just want teachers, whether you've been teaching and you're near retirement or just graduated from college, we want you to know that this will only benefit your work. It'll make your work easy. Maybe not necessarily easier, because teachers, we be working hard. But in
Right.
terms of teaching instruction and classroom management, all of those things that kind of you have to relearn each year with a different group, I think having these skills helps them be able to get to what they really want to get to, and that is quality instruction.
Quality instruction is key. So let's talk. I mean, you know me. You've been knowing me for a while. You know, I'm all about solutions, right? And so as we start to think about this, you know, since people come to this podcast thinking about solutions, I want to give you the platform, right, to talk about solutions, taking your role in one of the nation's largest school districts. And I want you to be able to speak to people across the nation, right,
Okay.
that are in different roles based on what you've seen and what you've um, learned about what could potentially work. So when we think about this work from your office in particular, but when we kind of zoom out a little bit and think about school turnaround, the same issues that you are seeing in Wake County schools in Raleigh are the same issues that we're seeing across the country, right? Or even like with the platforms I'm in, you know, in places across the globe, right? The issues are very similar, right? But we are short on solutions, right? So you have a unique vantage point from your role as you look across the school. So if we were thinking about this work and thinking about culturally responsive leadership, instruction in the classroom, you know, we know that we have to deal with different stakeholders if we're going to make a difference. So let's start with the first stakeholder that I want us to address. So if you could just sit back and talk to school districts and schools, what would you say to them about their pathway forward, given what we're discussing today?
I think for school districts, I have one. I know you're probably going to laugh, but the
Hmm.
first thing is money.
Okay.
And I say money because we can't say this is a major issue or we can't say this is important issue if we don't want to invest. So we
Right.
all across the globe, we are saying that, especially when there was that surge after the murder of George Floyd, everyone was like, there was just this new heightened appetite, right? And everyone wanted to do something, be a part. And
Right.
strategic plans just started popping up. Everybody had a vision statement, everyone had a mission statement, everybody wants to
True.
do those things. But if we don't invest, then it's going to be very difficult to think in the things that we want to do. So that means investing in recruiting and retaining the best diverse talent for the district.
Hmm.
Being able to use funds to provide the best professional development, being able to just give those experiences that the staff, the district needs in order to again build up that leadership, build up that efficacy. So sometimes, a
Right.
lot of times, in little small departments like us, we're making miracles, and
Right.
that's how it is across different districts.
Yeah.
It's like we're passionate, we're making miracles, but we need that investment so that we can have the like I said, the best talent, the best resources, even, and we can even go down to even the best facilities, going from one side of a district going to the other side of a district, even equity in the facilities of a school, even equity in the just as different resources. So I say, show
Hmm.
us the money so that
That's
we
right.
can invest in this equity work and give people the highest experiences and learning available. I would also say too is also measure it. So when we measure, we go to our schools, we do equity walkthroughs. Like I
Hmm.
said, we tell people we can't do one and done's. We have to continue this work. So we all know that what's measured gets done. So putting in
Right.
intentional metrics in your district, in your strategic plan, so that we can ensure that the goals that we want to accomplish are being accomplished and making the right progress.
Great. That's excellent. That's excellent. Now, with the next stakeholder, we know policy in school district is really controlled at the school board level. So, what would you say to that stakeholder about this work?
I think from the school board level, I think that a lot of times we can be stuck in theory for a long time, right?
True. True.
We can say we need this for our children, and then we'll put out, these words like, oh, we're here for kids and we're doing these things and we're gonna do whatever we need to do for kids. But
Right.
that's a beautiful theory, right?
Right.
But practice.
Mm-hmm.
How does
Mm-hmm.
that look in practice? And I would tell any school board member to just familiarize yourself with your district, familiarize yourself with your region. So go into the schools, learn the demographics of your students, learn the demographics of the schools that are within your district. And the
Mm-hmm.
community, leverage your support as being a community, essentially a community leader, and providing resources and pushing for, the agenda of need and equity, because we love the speech, we love that, but we want you to be able to have the context when you're making decisions on the school board level. So
Got it.
it looks very, very different depending on what region you're in as a board member. And I think if they had more contextual evidence and took time to learn, just simply learn their district and learn the needs and see them for themselves, then I think that would provide a profound conviction when deciding the policies that would go forth through their hands.
Right. Yeah, and that's important as well. So for time purposes, let's go to universities,
Okay.
right? So because we know what goes on in universities, but what do you think about that stakeholder group and what they need to be thinking about in regards to this work?
Honestly, Dr. Lewis, I think the first thing is going back to what I'm saying for the school district. I think there needs to be some culturally relevant leadership in place, because the same way the majority of our teachers are white female, that's
Hmm.
also the same for our EPP staff.
Right.
So until, again, if you don't feel like you have the capacity, you're not going to advocate for that course. You're not going to advocate for those experiences. So I think first, before I even talk about we need more courses, we need this, we need to build up those who are responsible for that training and
Got it.
provide them that leadership to where they can navigate conversations and things of that nature, so that they can be able to apply that information to the teacher candidates. So I think some work needs to be done first with staff, and then also providing student teachers with multiple backgrounds, but multiple
Hmm.
student sites, multiple school sites. So then there's not so much of a difference or a shock when they're in a different space. I think
Hmm.
being able to do that practice, start student teaching early. One thing that I love
Right.
about some programs, you do all this and then it's the very last semester where you have to implement all this work. So even if it's not a student teacher internship, observing, being able to, see things in real time, so that there's not so many firsts that are
Hmm.
occurring when the teacher candidate transitions from pre-service to in-service.
Great, great. And the last group I want us to talk about is parents, right? We know what educators say about parents. We also know, and I always like to say this, at many schools that there's an invisible wall in front of the school, because at many schools they really don't want parents to come, right? And so when you think about this work from your side, how do you see parents as a stakeholder group being a part of the solutions to this as well?
I think this is something I've been saying since the beginning of my career. I always say parents are the first teacher of our
Yeah.
students. They know things that we will never know. They have context that we will never have. And that is powerful when working with students. They
Hmm.
are a treasure chest of resources. And there is twofold, because they are the same way students have trauma, there's some parent trauma. Parents may
Yeah.
not want to go to the school for whatever reason, or maybe they've been and they have nobody has been culturally responsive to them and their needs. So whether it's language or whether it's resources or whatever it is, sometimes there's not there hasn't been a well established relationship. And then what
Right.
I always like to say to teachers, and they kind of go like this, is like, you might be boring. Okay.
Right. Right. And they
Okay.
can't handle that level of truth.
Yeah,
Right.
can't handle that level of truth, right? So you got to think about it. If I'm a parent and I have students and and there's something going on at the school, and I have to figure out dinner, I have to figure out babysitting, I had to figure out all those things. For me to rearrange my life to come to maybe an hour session where you're giving me resources, a piece of paper I can't read, I don't understand. You
Right.
got OA.3A and
Right.
MB2. Is it worth it? Would you want to come? I always ask, when you open up your doors to parents, would you want to come to this? And are they leaving feeling like every time they come to the school, when they come and when they leave, do they feel like that relationship is getting stronger? So for parent side, I would definitely say, get involved. Just know that you don't have to be this all knowing of curriculum and instruction. You can be yourself and be a parent, but providing us with that context will only provide us with better access and knowledge to care for your child and teach your child, and make sure that we are a team in providing the best instruction for your student and ultimately increase their student success. So don't worry about what what you don't know. What you provide is enough.
Great, great. Well, we're at the end of our time for today. So I want to personally thank you for being here today. I am so proud of you. I'm so proud of your development. I'm so proud to say I knew you when, so I won't fill in the rest of the blank from there. But I'm very proud of the work that you're doing, seriously, and I really believe that our viewers who are watching the show will be able to take some nuggets of wisdom, from you to implement in their daily practices as well, because that's the goal, where we improve, people one by one, in the work that they're doing, not only, in Wake County where you are, but across the nation and across the globe. And those are the opportunities that we want to provide for the students as well. So thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate your time. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Lewis.
All right. You take care.